Hi, I'm John with CodeVA, and this is a quick tutorial on while loops with the Material Computer. We're going to be tracing through this program over here on the right and explaining what a while loop is, how it works, and how we can execute it using the Material Computer, which is like an imaginary computer that we operate code with manipulatives in this sheet of paper. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So I have this program over here on the right, and I'm just going to trace through it real quick. I'm going to explain what a while loop is as I do so. So first line of code should be familiar to most folks. If you don't know how to do variables yet, you might want to check out a tutorial about that before we go any further. So create a variable here. Let me grab a label for that variable because I need to give it a name. And that name will be count. Count. Grab a top for my variable. Okay. And count gets a value of 0, an integer value of 0. So I don't need to put anything in there. I'm just going to leave it empty because that can represent 0 for us here. All right, great. Now we have a maybe unfamiliar code pattern here. While, and then a Boolean expression or a relational expression. Now the way that this works is the computer is going to look at this expression. And this expression will produce a value of true or false. It's a relational expression, that's how they work. So we have count, and we're going to be comparing count to a value of 5. So here's 5. And the computer is going to be looking at these two values. And if count is less than 5, it will return a value of true. And if count is greater than 5 or equal to 5, it will resolve to a value of false. So right now, count doesn't have anything in it. It is totally empty. It is a 0. So count is indeed less than 5, meaning that we have a value of true here. This means that the computer, instead of skipping this section of code, it will execute the section of code, just like an if statement. It's kind of the same idea. So we execute that section of code, print looping. Excellent. Now, unlike an if statement, which would then continue at the next line, with a while loop, it actually jumps back up and it evaluates the statement again. Now, nothing has changed here. Count is still holds a value of 0. 5 is still 5, so this expression still returns true. This means that the computer will go ahead and do another loop. Great. Same thing. It gets to the end, it'll jump back up and check this expression again. Nothing has changed. It's still true, so it'll still do the loop. You can see we have sort of a pattern here. Because the count variable will never, with the way our code is written right now, it will never be equal to or greater than 5. The computer is stuck in this while loop. It will continue to execute that print statement over and over again forever. Because I'm a human operating this, the code is moving pretty slowly. But if I were a real computer, this would just be like looping over and over and over again forever. That's problematic, right? Our computer gets stuck in this program, and it can't stop. It can't stop running it. It's just over. It's stuck in this infinite loop. This is called an infinite loop. It's kind of a bad thing. You don't want to have infinite loops in your programs. So to make this work and to make it so that we can eventually have the computer get to this line of code, we will need to add a line of code to change that count variable. And I'm going to do a pattern called incrementing. We're going to take this line of code which directs the computer to increase the value stored in that count variable by 1. All right, so let's start over from the beginning. Just pretend that's not there. Remove all my little pieces. Keep some stuff on stage so that we can make it a little bit easier. Okay, so step number 1, create an integer variable called count with a value of 0. So we don't have to put anything in there, it's just empty. Then the computer needs to compare the variable count to see if it's less than a value of 5. Go. Now, count is indeed less than 5 because it doesn't have anything in it right now. It's 0. So the computer is going to go ahead and loop. Is going to run the code inside of the while loop. So first we print looping. Then we have an expression. So go ahead and clear some of the stuff off here. Count is going to get a new value equal to the value of count, which is currently 0. Nothing in there right now. Plus 1. So the result of this expression is 1, and it gets assigned to the count variable. That's that line of code. Now we've reached the end of the while loop, so the computer will jump back up to this top line and check the expression again. Now count has a value of 1. So the situation has changed. We're going to compare 1 to a value of 5. And if 1 is less than 5, then we'll do the loop. And if 1 is greater than 5, then we'll stop the loop. 1 is not greater than 5 or equal to 5. 1 is indeed less than 5, so we get a value of true out of that, meaning the computer will do the loop again. So print looping, increment the count value, and I'm just going to shortcut this to make it a little bit faster. Just add 1 and compare again. That's 2, which is still less than 5. So the computer executes the loop again. Print looping. Increment the count variable. And then we compare. Once again, after it completes the loop, jumps back up to the top and checks that comparison. 3 is still less than 5. So we keep going. Print looping. Increment variable count by 1. Check it. That's 4, still less than 5. So the computer does loop again. Looping. All right. Count gets assigned a value of count plus 1. Check one more time. So that is a value of 5. 5 is not less than 5. 5 is equal to 5. So now, because we've been changing that count variable each time the loop runs, we have a value of false. And the computer will not run the code in the loop. In fact, it will skip all of the code in here, jump down to the bottom, and then execute the next line, which is print all done. So this is now the output of our program. It printed looping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then it printed all done. Now I could write this code kind of the same way without a loop if I wanted to. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So if I needed this code with print looping 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's That's the code without the loop, right? It's much longer. We've used a bunch of lines because we have to write each command one at a time so the computer can follow it sequentially. Using a loop allows the computer to select this block of code and then repeat it as long as we have that expression be equal to true. Once that expression is false, it stops looping. So I've done two things. I've fixed the infinite loop, and I've demonstrated how a variable changes inside of a loop. So that's while loops with the Material Computer. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Otherwise, good luck and happy coding.